The radio crackled through the static. All confirmed fatalities, Sector 3. Caleb Hayes didn't move. He knelt in the snow beside the crushed sedan, one hand hovering over a still neck, the other pressed to cold metal, still warm from impact. Around him, the interstate looked like a battlefield cars twisted, glass glittering under the red-blue strobe, smoke curling into a sky that gave nothing back. Cold skin, no pulse. Protocol said, gone. But something in him whispered, wait, Hayes, rotate out. You're done. Captain Porter's voice came sharp through the cones. Caleb didn't answer. His eyes bloodshot, hollowed by too many nights and too many ghosts fixed on the man's chest. 20-something. The wedding ring flashed in the lights. A child's car seat crumpled in the back. Then a flutter. Barely there. So faint it could have been his own pulse echoing through numb fingers. Or maybe just hope, refusing to die. Wait. Caleb's voice cracked against the wind. No, that's... His partner's boots crunched through debris. Caleb, we gotta move. Fire's spreading. Caleb pressed harder. Searching. Certain now. Dispatch had called it. Triage had tagged it. Everyone else had moved on to the living. Everyone except Caleb Hayes. There's still someone here. His voice tore through the sirens. Marcus froze. What? Behind them, an overturned truck ignited flames clawing skyward, heat rolling over them in waves. Caleb didn't blink. I said, he's alive. A moment of silence. Just the wind, the fire, the hum of disbelief. Then movement, purpose. Because in that frozen stretch of highway, surrounded by the dead, Caleb Hayes had just felt life. And he wasn't about to let it go. Have you ever met someone who refused to give up, no matter the cost? Share your thoughts and subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience.
14 hours earlier, Caleb Hayes' alarm never went off. Didn't need to. He was already awake, staring at the ceiling, watching headlights drift across cracked plaster like ghosts marking time. His daughter's drawing was taped to the dashboard. A stick-figure family, a smiling son, and a purple message in a 7-year-old's handwriting. Come home safe, Daddy. She didn't know that sometimes coming home safe wasn't the hardest part. Coming home at all. Carrying the weight of everyone you couldn't save. That was the war. The coffee in his thermos had gone cold before dawn. He drove through streets still half asleep. City lights blinking in puddles, hands gripping the wheel like it might anchor him to something real. He couldn't remember the last night he'd slept more than 4 hours. At the station, Marcus whistled low. Man, you look like you've wrestled a fire truck. Caleb forced a smile. Just one shift. Marcus raised a brow. You sure? Yeah. The lie slipped out easily. After 12 years on the job, lying was the second nature. Lie to your captain. Lie to your partner. Lie to yourself that you're fine. That the faces don't follow you home. That sometimes, when your daughter laughs, you don't see someone else's eyes. Captain Porter caught him in the hall. Hayes, office now. She closed the door, arms folded. You're burning out. 16 days straight? We're short-staffed. I don't care. Take the next rotation off. I said I am fine. And I said it's not a suggestion. They both knew he wouldn't. Home was too quiet, too full of ghosts. The job kept him moving, and movement was the only thing that kept him from thinking. In his locker, behind his spare uniform, sat the photo he'd never looked at but couldn't throw away. A photo from 5 years ago. A wreck, a teenage girl's hand in his. 16, Sophie Callahan. 11 minutes of CPR. Perfect form. Perfect timing. She'd still died. Protocol said he'd done everything right. But protocol didn't wake at 3 a.m. whispering, "What if one more minute?" He shot the locker, jaw tight. Not again. Marcus appeared beside him, smirking. "Talking to yourself?" "Psyching up." "For what? It's Tuesday. Probably gonna be quiet." Caleb almost laughed. The universe heard that, and the universe was cruel. The call came in. Multi-vehicle collision at Interstate 95, northbound. 8 cars minimum. Possible fatalities. Conditions were worsening fast. Emergency crews scrambled as chaos spread across the highway. Snow had started an hour earlier, the sideways kind. The kind that turned headlights into halos and the world into static. By the time Caleb and Marcus hit the scene, the interstate looked less like a highway and more like a graveyard made of metal and glass. Twisted steel, flames rising from wrecks. A sedan was crushed between 2 semis. An SUV on its side, wheels still spinning like it hadn't realized it was dead yet. Shattered glass everywhere, catching red and blue lights, scattering them across the snow like broken stars. Caleb jumped out before the ambulance stopped rolling. His boots skidded on ice. He caught himself on a doorframe, then ran. Sirens screamed from every direction. Radios hissed and barked. Someone was shouting for stretchers. Someone else was praying. He moved by muscle memory. Pulse, airway, tag and move. Red for critical, yellow for stable, black for... He didn't finish the thought. A woman, mid-40s, pinned beneath the dashboard, alive. "We got her," a firefighter called. Caleb nodded and pushed forward. An older man, bleeding heavily from the scalp but breathing. "Yellow tag," Caleb shouted. Snow thickened. Visibility dropped. The air turned colder, sharper. Somewhere deep in his mind, a clock had begun to tick. "Hayes," Marcus's voice crackled through the chaos. "We're out of stretchers." "Then get more." "They're coming, but..." The explosion cut him off. A boom that rolled through the night like thunder. Heat slammed into Caleb's face, lifting flakes of burning debris. 50 feet away, a truck's hood had become a fireball, flames glowing upward, painting everything in violent orange. "Command to all units, secondary explosion risk. Fuel lines compromised. Begin evacuation protocol." Evacuation. The word we hated most, a line between duty and defeat. Caleb pushed harder, faster. His hands were steady, but his heartbeat wasn't. He worked on a crushed minivan, then a sedan wrapped tightly around a guardrail. The motions were automatic, but his mind was somewhere else. 5 years ago, electric blue nail polish, Sophie Callahan. 11 perfect minutes that hadn't been enough. Then he saw it. The blue sedan. The passenger side collapsed inward. Windshield webbed. The driver, male, maybe late 20s, slumped forward, head resting against shattered glass. A black tag fluttered from the mirror like a death certificate in the wind. DOA, dead on arrival. Caleb should have walked past. That was the rule. The living first, always the living. But something made him stop. Maybe it was the photo dangling from the rearview mirror. A woman and a newborn, smiling. Maybe it was the gold ring on the driver's hand, glinting in the light. Maybe it was the way his fingers were stretched toward his phone, frozen mid-reach. Or maybe it was Sophie. Caleb crouched beside the door, snow biting his knees. The window was shattered. He reached through, glove brushing cold skin. He pressed 2 fingers to the man's neck. Nothing. The body was stiff, skin pale, the kind of stillness that told you everything you didn't want to know. Marcus' voice came through the storm. Caleb, he's tagged, man. Let's move. Caleb didn't move. His fingers pressed harder, searching, hoping. Caleb, just give me a second. He held still, every sense tunneling down to that single point of contact. The world faded, the fire, the sirens, the shouting, until all that existed was a pulse and silence. Then, there, a flutter, weak, impossible, but there. His breath caught. For a heartbeat, he didn't trust himself. Maybe he was imagining it. Maybe fatigue was tricking him. But then it came again. A whisper of life under his fingertips. Marcus, his voice cracked. I got something. What? A pulse. He swallowed hard. I think there's a pulse. Marcus leaned in, skeptical, eye scanning the black tag. Triage already called it. Triage was wrong. Caleb, come on. Look around you. We gotta go. Caleb's head stayed planted. His voice was quiet but sharp, cutting through the chaos. No, I'm telling you, there's something here. Another explosion tore through the far side of the wreck, closer this time. The heat surged. The wind carried sparks. The air itself seemed to scream. Command to all units, evacuate immediately. Repeat, Sector 3, evacuate. Marcus grabbed his shoulder, yanking hard. Protocol says we move. Protocol's not breathing, Caleb snapped, eyes locking onto his partner's. But he is. Marcus stared at him. What he saw there, the exhaustion, the madness, the desperate flicker of belief, froze him. Caleb, help me get him out. The flames were closing in, the snow turning to steam where it hit the ground. The temperature rose, radios barked final warnings. But Caleb didn't hear them, because under his fingertips there it was again, faint, fragile, defiant. A heartbeat. And for the first time in a long time, Caleb Hayes believed. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was risking everything for a ghost. But if there was even a chance, one heartbeat in a storm of silence, he wasn't leaving it behind. Not again. Sector 3, I repeat, clear out now. Captain Porter's voice cut through the radio like a blade. It wasn't a request anymore. It was the kind of order that could end careers. Caleb ignored it. His hands locked into position on the victim's chest. The world around him dissolved. Sirens, fire, screaming radios, until only the rhythm remained. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each breath sent a tremor through his arms, ribs flexing beneath his palms. Snow mixed with ash, falling in slow motion around him. The heat from the nearby fire battled the freezing wind, opposites colliding, life and death locked in the same frame. Marcus stood frozen beside him, torn between duty and instinct, eyes flicking between the spreading flames and his partner refusing to yield. The world shrank, just Caleb, the patient, and a heartbeat he refused to give up on. Then, the past punched through him. 5 years ago, different wreck, different road. Sophie Callahan, 16, her hand in his, eyes searching his face for something he couldn't give. Hope. 10 minutes. 11. The protocol said stop. He'd stopped. He still heard her mother scream, still saw the exact shade of electric blue nail polish on her fingers when he pulled his hand away. What if I'd gone 12 minutes? What if I hadn't quit? He pressed harder now, almost angry. Come on, kid, not this time. You don't get to go. Caleb, Marcus grabbed his shoulder. You're losing it. Caleb didn't look up. I lost her once before. His breath came in ragged bursts. Not again. Snow clung to his lashes. Sweat burned his eyes. His muscles screamed, but he kept the rhythm, kept the count. Marcus hesitated, then moved. Loyalty won. He yanked the defibrillator from the trauma bag, slapped on the pads. You're insane. Caleb's answer came through gritted teeth. Probably. The AED powered up with rising wine, analyzing rhythm. The machine announced in its mechanical calm, a cruel contrast to the chaos surrounding them. Clear. Caleb pulled back, shocked. The man's body jerked, then fell still, flatline. Behind them, the overturned truck's gas tank ignited, an explosion of fire that swallowed the sky. The air rippled with heat. Flames rolled towards them, devouring everything in their path. A firefighter stumbled through the smoke, voice hoarse. Hayes, you gotta move. The line's gonna blow. Caleb didn't answer. He stared at the still body beneath him. Calculated odds, 0 chance. Still, one more round. Caleb, are you out of your... I said one more. His voice tore out of him like a battle cry. He pressed down again, relentless. Come on, kid, come on. The fire was at 10 feet. The air shimmered, the oxygen itself burning. Marcus's face was red, soaked in sweat and soot. This is it, Caleb. After this, we go. Caleb nodded, never breaking rhythm. Both men knew he wouldn't stop. Marcus hit the power again. Clear. Shock. The flatline tone screamed through the chaos. No change. Smoke billowed, thick and choking. Snow turned to steam as it hit the asphalt. Somewhere behind them, Porter's voice was shouting through the comms, desperate, furious. Evacuate, Hayes, that's an order. Caleb didn't hear it, or didn't care. He pressed one more time, his hands trembling, vision tunneling, body ready to collapse. Then, a flicker. Barely a sound, more feeling. Under his fingertips, something shifted. A rhythm, small, fragile, real. Caleb froze. Marcus stared. No way. Caleb leaned closer, disbelief turning to awe. He's got a pulse. The radio was still screaming evacuation orders. The flames were close enough to melt the snow at their boots, but neither man moved. Caleb's voice cracked, half laughter, half sob. He's alive. Marcus exhaled, shaking his head. You're out of your damn mind. Yeah? Caleb whispered, but I was right. The roar of the fire filled the night. Red and orange light reflected off the snow, turning the world into a battlefield between two forces, death pulling one way, life glowing the other. Caleb Hayes stepped back, breath ragged, hands shaking. In his ears, the flat line had turned into something else, something steady, a heartbeat. And for the first time in years, he felt his own pulse match it. Then, the body convulsed, a cough, wet, weak but real. Caleb jerked forward as the young man's chest rose, spasmed, then pulled in a shuddering breath. The sound cut through the inferno like a miracle. He's breathing, Marcus gasped. Caleb didn't think. He moved. Stretcher, now! His voice cracked, half command, half prayer. Fire roared behind him, but for one impossible moment, life had fought its way back from the flames. Everything shifted. The evacuation turned into resurrection. Shapes emerged from the smoke. Paramedics, firefighters, cops racing towards the wreck like a single organism suddenly given purpose again. Because dead men don't cough. And sometimes, refusing to quit rewrites the rule of reality. Metal groaned as they pried open the crushed door. Marcus slid the backboard under the victim, while Caleb steadied his head. His hands steady now with the kind of focus only adrenaline can summon. See color, line, let's move. The heat was unbearable. The sedan's paint blistered and peeled. Fire licked closer. Orange reflected in their visors. They moved with mechanical precision, training and desperation fusing into choreography. On three, Marcus said. 1, 2, 3. They lifted together, hauling the man out just as the windshield collapsed inward from the heat. A wave of flame chased them, the air roaring like a jet engine. Halfway to the ambulance, Caleb's knees buckled. The adrenaline that had carried him this far turned to lead in his veins. He stumbled, nearly went down. Marcus caught him under the arm. I got you, brother. Keep moving. They shoved through smoke and snow and chaos until they reached the open ambulance doors. Hands reached out. Other medics, ready. The victim disappeared inside, monitors flickering to life. Go, Caleb barked, slamming the doors. The ambulance roared off, sirens splitting the night, carrying a man who by all rights should have been a body bag statistic towards a faint possibility of a tomorrow. Caleb just stood there, chest heaving. His hands trembled uncontrollably. The fire's glow painted his gear in shades of hell and victory. Around him, command voices shouted, hoses hissed, metal clanged. But he didn't hear any of it. The world narrowed again, this time to silence. Marcus appeared beside him, shoving a half-empty water bottle into his shaking hands. Caleb's hand shook. The bottle slipped, rattling against his gloves. Marcus steadied it for him. Easy, small sips. Cold water hit his tongue, shocking him back to something resembling reality. His throat burned. Radio just confirmed, Marcus said quietly. Pulse stable, breathing on his own. They're calling it a miracle. Caleb laughed once, a rough, cracked sound that wasn't laughter at all. Miracle, sure. What would you call it? Stubbornness, guilt, take your pick. He slumped against a guardrail, armor clanging softly. The metal was cold through his jacket, but the exhaustion was worse. His muscles screamed. Every breath hurt. Every heartbeat felt burrowed. I broke protocol, he said. Ignored orders. Put the team in the blast zone because I couldn't. His voice broke apart. He pressed both hands over his face because I couldn't let it happen again. Marcus sat beside him, quiet, snow collecting on his helmet. For a long time, neither man spoke. The fires hissed, radios crackled. Somewhere, someone laughed, distant and fragile, the sound of life carrying on. Finally, Marcus said, Caleb, look at me. Caleb lowered his hands. Marcus' expression was steady, unflinching. You saved him, Marcus said. You gave someone a second chance. His wife gets her husband. His kids gets a father. That's what matters. Porter is going to end me. Probably, Marcus said with a faint grin, but you'll still be able to look in the mirror. Caleb stared down at his gloves. Blood, soot, melted snow. They looked like they belonged to someone else. His fingers twitched once, the tremor small but unmissable. I felt her hand, he murmured. Marcus frowned. Who? Sophie. The name came out like a confession. When she died, 16. I was doing compressions, 10 minutes, 11, and her hand was in mine. Then it just went cold. I stopped, followed the book. His throat worked. I shouldn't have. Marcus said nothing. The silence between them was heavy, sacred. I couldn't do it again, Caleb whispered. Couldn't walk away wondering what if. Even if it meant dying right there. Even if it meant losing everything. Marcus nodded slowly. Then you did what you had to. They sat there until the snow stopped falling, until the flames died down to a steam and ash, until the world felt survivable again. Hayes, Marcus, return to base. Caleb exhaled. The command sounded distant, like it was meant for someone else. He stood. Every joint protested. He looked back at the wreck one last time, the blackened skeleton of what could have been another tragedy, another ghost to carry. The horizon flickered with dying firelight. Beyond it, faint blue sirens still screamed towards the city. Let's go, Marcus said. Caleb hesitated, then nodded. He climbed to the cab, the seat creaking under his weight. Marcus got in beside him. Neither spoke as the engine started. Through the cracked windshield, Caleb caught his reflection. Soot smeared, hollow-eyed, alive. For the first time in 5 years, that last word meant something again. He shifted into drive and rolled towards the glow of the base lights in the distance, unsure of the price he just paid, only that, for once, it had been worth it. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee, and the kind of hope that always comes with a cost. Caleb limped down the corridor, bandaged hand pressed to his side, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He hadn't planned to come. He'd told himself the rescue was enough, that closure was overrated, but his feet had other ideas. 3rd floor, ICU, room 314. Through the glass he saw him, the young man from the wreck. Tubes, monitors, oxygen line, but alive, breathing on his own. A woman sat beside the bed, holding his hand, mid-20s, eyes swollen from crying. When she looked up, her gaze locked on Caleb's. Something passed between them, wordless, raw, human. She stood and crossed the room. Caleb braced for gratitude, apology, collapse, anything. But her voice was barely a whisper. You stayed. Caleb swallowed hard. Yeah, guess I did. They said you should have left, that by the book he was gone. Her chin trembled. But you stayed. I was just doing my job. She shook her head. No, you were being human. There's a difference. She squeezed his uninjured hand once, firm, grateful, and went back to her husband. Caleb stayed only long enough to see the steady rise and fall of a living chest. Then he turned and walked out before she could see him break. 3 days later, Captain Porter's office, same desk, same tone. She read his report in silence, fingers drumming against the page. Caleb stood at attention, waiting for the blow. Finally, she looked up. You broke protocol. Yes, ma'am. Ignore direct orders. Yes, ma'am. Put your team at risk. Yes, ma'am. Porter slid the document across the desk. Not a termination notice, but a commendation. And you saved a man everyone else had written off. She leaned back, eyes softer now. The family filed a letter. The hospital chief called personally. You're getting a medal, Hayes? Caleb stared at the paper. I don't want a medal. Too bad you're getting one. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile. You scared the hell out of me that night. I know. But you had good instincts. That patient, Nathan Callahan. Caleb froze. What did you say? Nathan Callahan, why? The room tilted. Caleb gripped the edge of the desk. Callahan. Porter glanced at her notes. His mother's name is Sarah, why? She stopped. Realization hit. Wait. Sophie Callahan. The crash 5 years ago, that was his sister. Caleb whispered. Silence fell, heavy, inevitable. 5 years ago, he'd lost his sister, followed every rule, every step, and still failed. The guilt had eaten him alive. Now, by breaking the rules, he'd saved her brother. Fate wasn't random. It had a cruel, perfect memory. Porter studied him quietly. Go home, Hayes. See your kid. 2 weeks off. That's an order. Caleb nodded. Hayes? He paused at the door. You can train skill, Porter said softly, but you can train heart. That night, Caleb sat on the couch with his daughter curled against him, asleep before the second act of some movie he wasn't watching. Her breath rose and fell against his chest, small, steady, alive. His bandaged hand rested on the armrest, the skin beneath still raw, still aching. Daddy? Her sleepy voice mumbled. Yes, sweetheart? Did you save someone today? He smiled faintly. Yeah, I did. I knew you would. She drifted off again, her trust pure and unshaken. Caleb's eyes burned. Something inside him cracked open, not breaking but healing. He carried her to bed, tucked her in, and stood there for a long time just listening to her breathe. Then he went to his room, opened his locker, and took out a small photo. Sophie Callahan, 16, electric blue nails, alive cut short. He looked at her face, and for the first time, it didn't hollow him out. He set the photo in a box with other keepsakes, not erased, not forgotten, just finally at peace. In the kitchen, his gloves sat on the table, scarred, stained, folded neatly. Tools of a life built in moments between chaos and calm. Tomorrow, he'd put them back on, answer another call, face another line between following orders and following his heart. But tonight, he just breathed, because sometimes the difference between tragedy and miracle isn't training or timing. It's someone refusing to walk away, someone who stays, someone who feels that impossible flicker of life and believes it. Someone who feels that impossible flicker of life and believes in it anyway. You can teach a procedure, you can drill the technique, but you can teach heart. And sometimes, the heart is the only thing that saves us. Everyday heroes are all around us.